Today's Science Journal activity is called the Energy Pyramid, and it is on pages 20 and 21. So make sure we get that information in our table of contents, we get our pages numbered, and we get our titles written. So this assignment is going to take up both pages. On this side, we are going to draw an energy pyramid. On this side, we're going to take notes on the energy pyramid. So we're going to start with this side. The supplies you'll need are a black, purple, green, brown, red, and a pencil. To begin, I want you to take your pencil and come over here, and in the top center, we're going to make one dot. Then we're going to come down and we're going to start at our bottom and we're going to count up 5 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the 5th line, we're going to put a dot where the red margin meets our paper line. And then we're going to go straight across and put one on the opposite side as well. And then we are just going to connect these lines. All right, now we're going to divide the interior of this triangle into 4 sections. So start at the bottom, count up 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll draw a horizontal line across. Count up another 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll draw a horizontal line across. And 4 more lines. 5 more lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that gives the top section with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. Now, if your triangle isn't divided into 5 lines exactly, that is okay. Everyone's notebook might be a little bit different. So as long as we got plenty of space, evenly divided in each of these 4 sections. All right. Now, this is called the energy pyramid. And we're going to add one more thing on the side. It's going to be an arrow pointing up. And this arrow is the flow of energy. Now, we've looked at a lot of food webs so far this year. This energy pyramid is basically an outline or a template that can really be applied to almost any biome. We're going to learn a few new vocabulary words, but really we're just adding words to a lot of the words that we've already learned so far in our food webs and ecosystems unit. So we're going to start down here at the bottom, and I want you to find your green. Now, if this is supposed to be similar to a food web, I want you to think about the food webs we've looked at and think about what is always located at the bottom of a food web, right? What group of organisms are almost always found at the bottom of the food web? And then I'm going to ask you to apply that knowledge to this. Which organisms are all the way at the bottom of a food web? And using that, what group of organisms do you think will be at the bottom of our energy pyramid? We're going to take our green and we're going to write producers. Because the first level of our energy pyramid is always going to be producers. Now, what are some organisms or some examples of producers? Grass, flower, trees, cactus, really any plant. So I want you to take a minute and fill in this bottom box with some examples of producers. I'm going to make mine kind of easy. I'm going to do some grass. Let's see, do some flower stems. I'm gonna take my brown and add a tree. And I use these other colors to make a few flowers. All right, so those are some producers, right? We don't have to include a whole bunch. We just want to make sure we know that this first level of our energy pyramid are all producers. Now, moving up, as we go up the pyramid, the organisms here are able to get energy, right, to eat and to get chemical energy from anything below it. So we have producers down here. Which organisms or which group of organisms would go here that get their energy from producers? This group is going to be all of our herbivores, but we're learning a new vocabulary word for herbivores. This box will be in brown, and the group here that consists entirely of herbivores, so all herbivores in an ecosystem would fall into this level, and those are called primary consumers. So I'm going to label this box in brown. And then in parentheses, I'm going to write herbivores, so that I can always remember that primary consumers are all herbivores. So staying with our brown, let's add a few examples of herbivores in here. I want you to draw the same animals, the same examples, in the same number that I'm drawing them in here. It's very important that we keep these numbers the same and that you keep the animals the same. If you want to think of some other primary consumers while we're going through this, you're more than welcome to think of them. That's a great idea. But what we are writing here, keep it identical to mine. Same color, same organisms. So a good example of a primary consumer is a deer. So we're going to add a couple simple looking deer here. I'm going to get a deer head with a deer body, a couple deer antlers, some deer legs, and a little deer tail. Now let's do another deer. So here's my second deer. And a little tail. All right. Another example of a primary consumer would be rabbits. So let's draw 4 rabbits. My little rabbit body, rabbit head, 2 rabbit ears, back foot, front foot, and a little cottontail. So we're going to do 4 rabbits. Two, three, and here's our 4th rabbit. And we're going to add just one more example here. Let's add some squirrels to this side. So make a squirrel, do a little squirrel body, a little squirrel head, a little squirrel feet, and a bushy squirrel tail. We're going to do 6 squirrels. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll stay at 4. Let's just do 4 squirrels. So we have 2 deer, 4 rabbits, 4 squirrels. These are all primary consumers because they are herbivores. Every herbivore is a primary consumer. So what other herbivores can we think of? A cow is a herbivore, so that's a primary consumer. It would go in this level. A horse, a zebra, an antelope, a giraffe, a goat, a sheep. All of those are herbivores, and all herbivores are primary consumers. Okay? So herbivores are primary consumers, and they go here on our second level of the energy pyramid. Now remember, organisms get energy from whatever is below them. So the primary consumers can only get energy from what's below them, the producers. That's why they're herbivores, because they eat only plants. Let's move to our next box. This one will be in purple, and these are secondary consumers. Oops. And these are secondary consumers. All right, secondary consumers. Now, secondary consumers are going to get their energy from whatever's below them. So secondary consumers can get their energy from primary consumers if they eat meat, and they can get their energy from producers if they eat plants. So secondary consumers can get energy from anything below them if they can digest it. So if they eat meat, they'll eat from the primary consumers. If they eat plants, they can also eat from the producers. Another interesting thing about secondary consumers is that all secondary consumers are both predator and prey, right? These secondary consumers will be predators to primary consumers, and the secondary consumers will also be prey to our apex predators that we're doing next. So let's add a couple examples of secondary consumers. So a very common secondary consumer that is a vicious predator but is also very good prey is going to be a snake. So let's draw 4 snakes. And we'll give them little snake tongues. All right, and another very common secondary consumer is a fox. So we're going to draw 2 foxes. So I'm going to give a long fox body, a long fox head with some pointed ears, and a big old bushy tail coming out of here. And we'll do one more fox. Long fox body, long fox head, couple pointed ears, little cute fox legs, and a big old bushy fox tail. Remember, these secondary consumers, they can be carnivores or omnivores. If they're a carnivore, they will eat from the primary consumers. If they're an omnivore, they'll eat from primary consumers and producers. But it's important to note that secondary consumers can also get energy from other secondary consumers. A fox can definitely get its energy from a snake. So, and the last thing to remember about these secondary consumers is that everything in here, all animals in secondary consumer level, they are predator and prey. They are predators to what's below them, and they are prey to what's above them. Okay? Next, we will do red. So we'll get our red, and we're going to come up here to our top box. This top box is, and write it on the outside because you won't be able to fit it in. This top box are our tertiary consumers. And the organisms in here are tertiary consumers. They're at the top of the food chain. We normally call these organisms, we refer to these things at the top of the food chain as, I hope you said apex predators. So we'll put that in parentheses. Apex predators. The ones at the top of the food chain. These are the big, bad, nasty ones. A couple examples of apex predators: tertiary consumers, bears, lions, jaguars, tigers, polar bears, bald eagles, hawks, owls, anything that is a true predator. Anything with a lot of adaptations for fighting and eating other animals, and things that do not regularly get eaten by other animals. Right, so we're talking the biggest of the big, the baddest of the bad up here. We will, for our example in this box, we will draw an owl because owls are tertiary consumers. Now, I can show you how to draw a very easy, cute owl. You can just follow my steps here. First, we start with a Batman head. And then so you get your Batman head. And then we circle it around. All right, then we're going to add 2 large parentheses. Once you get your parentheses, put a little squiggle between the bottom for the tail feathers. And then we're going to do 2 more backwards parentheses in the middle for the wings. Add 2 big old owly eyes and an owl beak. So we've completed drawing our energy pyramid diagram almost. Let's go over what we have so far. So at the bottom, supporting all of the other animals in the ecosystem are our producers, all plants. These are at the bottom because plants are the only way that the sun's energy can get into the ecosystem. Remember, if the owl eats a snake, the snake eats a squirrel, the squirrel eats a producer. All of the chemical energy these organisms are getting, that energy originally started as sunlight, as light energy. That light energy went into producers. Producers use the light for photosynthesis to create glucose, and then use that glucose as chemical energy to grow and to reproduce. Without producers, there is no way for the light energy to be turned into chemical energy. So none of these groups can use light energy to sustain themselves. It is producers are the only things in the universe capable of using light energy in a process that allows them to grow and turn it into chemical energy. Because producers can use light energy and turn it into chemical energy, the rest of these organisms are able to live. So the first level is always producers because they are vitally important. Without the producers, we would have nothing else. Next, as our energy flows up, we have our primary consumers, which are all herbivores. A lot of these animals will have similar adaptations like flat teeth, hooves that are used, that are adaptations for herbivores, for primary consumers. And these primary consumers are herbivores, so they can eat what's below them, the producers. Now, from primary consumers, our energy keeps flowing up to secondary consumers. Secondary consumers are omnivores and carnivores because they can eat from the meat from primary consumers, or they can eat the plants from our producer category. But most importantly, the secondary consumers are all animals that are both predator and prey. This is a key characteristic of secondary consumers. They are all predator and prey. And if we keep heading up to our top, we have tertiary consumers. These are our apex predators. These guys can be carnivores or omnivores, and they're able to eat from anything below them. So tertiary consumers, if they eat meat, they'll eat secondary consumers. They can also eat primary consumers. If the tertiary consumer is an omnivore, it can eat from here, it can eat from here, and it can eat from the producers. The last thing I want to point out here is the size of these boxes and the number of organisms in them. Which of these boxes is the largest? It is obviously producers. All right, of these categories, which of these groups would have the most number of organisms worldwide? Again, it's the producers. There are more plants than anything else in the world because the plants are the most important. We have to have enough plants to convert that light energy into glucose so that they can use the glucose as chemical energy. Once all those plants have made their chemical energy, now we can start supporting the rest of our energy pyramid. But this box is the largest because this population is the largest. There are more plants than anything else in the world, so the plants have the largest box at the bottom because they are supporting everything else. Now, as we move up, we're in primary consumers. Our box is a little smaller, but bigger than these other two. And if we count our population numbers, the number of organisms we put in here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the primary consumers is the largest group of consumers. So out of all three of these groups, there are more primary consumers than anything else. That's because these primary consumers have to support the two higher levels. So there has to be enough primary consumers to support both of these two as well. If we go up again, we have our secondary consumers. We can see our box got a little bit smaller. Our population got a little smaller. There's only 6 in this box. That's because there are fewer secondary consumers than there are primary consumers. So fewer of these, more of these. And as we go up, we notice that in the smallest box, at the very tip or apex of our pyramid, there is one single tertiary consumer. That is because tertiary consumers have the lowest population of organisms. There are fewer apex predators than there are of anything else. So, a short recap. We have our energy pyramid, right? The flow of energy starts at the bottom, going up. Energy enters the ecosystem from the sun and has to go into producers. From producers, we have the most number of organisms are producers because they have to support everything above them. So we need lots and lots and lots of producers. As we move up, we have lots and lots of primary consumers, which are all herbivores. So lots of herbivores, primary consumers. Moving up again, we have a smaller population of secondary consumers. And if we go up to the top, we have the smallest population of tertiary consumers. So absolute most, a little bit less than producers, but the most population of consumers are in primary consumers. Then as we go up, we get a fewer population as secondary consumers and even fewer population in tertiary consumers. All right, we're almost done. We are forgetting one vitally important group of organisms. If you haven't guessed what it is yet, we have producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. There is one group of consumers, a special group we haven't included, and that will be our decomposers. So get your black, and we're going to add a rectangular box at the bottom of our pyramid, in a dotted line. So using our black to make a dotted outline of a box below our pyramid. And this box is decomposers, so in black we will label the bottom center as decomposers. So decomposers. And we're gonna fill in, we will draw, draw, doodle, and label all the examples we have of decomposers so far. So if you want to, you can pause the video, see if you can come up with your decomposers, see if you can remember them. You can flip back to look for them. They should be in our vocabulary pages, which are pages, should be, I think, 14 through 17. So if you want to pause the video and go see if you can get it yourself, you may do that, and then unpause the video whenever you're ready to continue. Our examples of decomposers. First, we have mushrooms. So we'll label mushrooms, and I'm going to draw a few. All right. We also have earthworms. So I'm going to write worms and draw some worms down here. Okay. We have maggots. Maggots, if you're not sure what they look like, basically just tiny, tiny, very short worms. And our maggots will turn into flies, which is another decomposer. And we'll label that flies. Let's see, we also need fungi. Mushrooms are the same thing. Mushrooms are a specific type of fungus. So if we're saying fungus or fungi, that's included in mushrooms, but we can add it just by doing a slash fungi. So mushroom slash fungi, worms, maggots, flies. We also need some ants. Draw a little ant bed, a little hole at the top, and some ants going up. And ants coming down. We'll label that ants. And lastly is bacteria. So bacteria are microscopic organisms. We can't see them without a microscope. So to represent bacteria, we will write the word and then just put some little dots around it to represent those tiny germs that we couldn't see unless we had a nice expensive microscope. All right, so now we've completed our energy pyramid. Cool, all right. I'm gonna stop the video here, and you can watch the second video to record our page of notes.